Welcome back to Weekend Movie Bros, where I am Jacob. That is Idiot.
Hi, I just want to come here and tell you guys that this review is pulled from our weekly or bi-weekly podcast that we do over here. The image above is the podcast that it's pulled from. There's, of course, always a link in the cards to it in case you want to watch the entire podcast. And yeah, that's all. Just in case there's like a joke in here or something along those lines. These are adult reviews. We do say adult language and stuff in them. I just want to give that heads up as well in case you guys are not familiar with us. Let's go ahead and jump into it. It's unedited, so it's exactly how it is in the podcast as well. So go ahead and enjoy.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which, by the way,
Nice
if you have
segue.
not seen, this is a spoiler review. This is the only review that we're doing this month that is spoiler filled, but I just want to put it out there. It's also the only review
June will
this
be a
month
different story.
where we're both, yeah, for sure. I think all those are going to be spoiler filled. But it's also the only movie this month that we both saw.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Zebra's really off this game.
To be very upfront with everybody, I was down for the majority of May. My pancreas was like, not today, buddy. And so I was like, okay, I'll chill. And that's exactly what I did. I chilled. Jacob really did the work in May. And, everybody get a round of applause. Jacob, you did a great job. He got everything there, took care of it.
I'm going to let Zachary start this because I have all the information. So as many stories I can let Zachary start, I want to do this month. So go ahead and tell us your thoughts and opinions in spoilery fashion about Guardians Galaxy Volume 3.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the best Marvel film in 2 years. No part, none. This beats every other Marvel film that's been released so far between the end of Phase 3 going into Phase 4. I've sat on it now for almost a month, and I can say it now. This is better than No Way Home. This is better than Shang-Chi. This is better than all of them put together for me. This movie is so fucking good. I have one little quarrel with the film, but the rest of it to me is absolutely perfect. This gave me my favorite Marvel character now within the MCU, and that's Rocket Raccoon. Bradley Cooper, much like with Andy Serkis during the Planet of the Apes era, I don't think Bradley Cooper gets enough credit for how much he does for that character. It is so just underlined, and it makes me sad because the moment, and like Jacob said, I'm giving you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When the High Evolutionary kills all of Rocket's friends, it just I'm going there because it's the scene that still sticks in my head. And when you see Baby Rocket just scream, just that gut scream, I have never cried harder in a theater since Tony died. It got me. And when he did the I was like, fuck yeah. It was I was so happy when he did it. Fuck the High Evolutionary. I can finally say it now on the podcast. It makes me feel so good. That man's a prick and I hate him. Um, Everybody. Now, me and Jacob. Oh, yes.
Could you explain what Guardians Galaxy Volume 3 is about for anybody who might
Sure.
not know?
Sorry.
Without
Sure.
just jumping directly into
Sorry.
conversations that
So,
we might be confused about.
sorry. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the story of Rocket Raccoon's origins, along with the introduction of Adam Warlock and the High Evolutionary. And it is the tale of everybody after the events of Endgame and the holiday special, where the Guardians are, how they're interacting with each other, and where they're going to be going moving forward after this movie, and where we
Thank
leave
you.
them. That is the basic gist of Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
Volume 3. Me and Jacob disagree on one major thing in this movie, and we will talk about it. I will get mine out of the way. I think Gamora is used brilliantly in this movie. I think she is used perfect. I think this is the best I've seen her used since Guardians 1. I really, really do. I think she's more on Peter's arm in Guardians 2 than I remembered. She is very attached to him, and therefore it takes away a lot of her moments to be the assassin that she is. But again, that's a different Gamora going into that time. And I still think the scene between her and Thanos when she's on the throne is one of my favorite scenes between the two of them at all, because you can just tell how much she hates him. But I think in this movie, I think Zoe does such a good job of changing it. Like, it is not the Gamora we saw in Guardians 1 at all. And I do agree with Jacob, and I agree with most people. I wish we got more time with her with the Ravengers. I think that would have given us more light and more detail to why her character is the way she is. But without that, I still think she stands out as one of the cooler moments of the movie. And her and Peter's reactions to each other, I think, are genuine. She is not trying to be mean. She's just letting him know, hey, I'm not that person, and you really need to move on from that. I think the scene that gets me the most is when she finally just breaks down and pushes him, and it's just she's not there. Um, Drax to me has the best character arc in any of the Guardians movies, going from when we don't, and then when we meet him in Guardians 1 to where he is in Guardians 3. When Nebula looks at him, I now know what your part is in this gang. You're the dad. Again, bawling because it's the truth. He is a father, and it shows in this movie, and it's so good. Mantis and Nebula have a great chemistry with each other. I love that Mantis finally sticks up for herself and Drax both, and it's a great moment. And Nebula is such a different character. She's funny, she gives a shit, and it's cool. However, though, I can fully agree with Jacob. The best character. I will let him get it done. There you go, bud. Let it out. Um. Oh, he's gone. The best character in this movie, without a doubt, is uh Groot. Groot has moments in this movie that are so good. I mean, like the scene when the wings come out for the first time, or when him and Star Lord go after High Evolutionary and they do and he does the gun reveal. It's so cool. Um, Peter, this is my favorite Chris Pratt performance of all the Guardians movies. But again, this all revolves right back down to Rocket. And when, in Guardians 1, when Rocket talks about how they, pulled him apart and put him back together, for most common audiences, they have no idea what he's talking about. That is just something that's just kept with him. And in this movie, we find out why. And there is some horrific shit in those flashback scenes. When they change that turtle into a person, I was just gobsmacked.
Now you know
It,
how Teenage Mutant intros are made.
I just, oh man. And then the other big debate about this movie was Adam Warlock. Either you liked Adam Warlock or you didn't like Adam Warlock. And I am on the camp of I loved Adam Warlock in this movie, from when you meet him to by the end of the movie, because they explain it in the film. He is taken out of the cradle way too quick. And it shows, but he's also how he is in the comics. He is a baby. He needs to be taught what to do. He is not just gonna get in there and go, I'm Adam Warlock and I can save everybody. No. And I think Will Poulter breaks that off perfectly. The scene when they do the interrogation and she goes, make him talk. I said make him talk. You said to get his attention. It's so funny. Um, and I think the High Evolutionary is the best villain Marvel's had in a long time. I get his motivations. I understand why he's doing what he's doing it, but you still hate him, and you want him to get what he gets, and he does. And the face reveal at the end was like looking at Two-Face if he got both sides. It was intense. Um, However, I really wish the F word did not go to Star Lord. I wish it would really went to Rocket at the end of the movie. When I would have been, because I'm a fucking Guardian of the Galaxy, and like that would have been cool. It just, it's so pleasing. It's such a good movie from beginning to end. It's hilarious. It's really funny, and this movie gives me the most hope going into James Gunn's DCU, because he, just within the Guardians films, and in my opinion, the Suicide Squad, it shows how much he cares about the material that he's given, and he will make sure that that material is given the justice it deserves. Because whether you liked the Suicide Squad or not, you have to agree that that movie cares more about the Suicide Squad characters than Suicide Squad did, I think. And I think directing wise, I'm so excited for Superman even more. Me and Jake talked about this. The Adam Warlock fight stuff gets me so excited for the fight scenes in Superman whenever that happens. Um, and you can also tell between Quantum Mania and Guardians, you can definitely tell which one Marvel had more faith in, because the VFX on Guardians is 10 times better than the VFX in Ant-Man the Wasp Quantum Mania. and I just had a great time with it. I really did. It sat in my mind since May, and I'm really glad out of all the movies in May, that was the one I got to see in theaters before I got sick. Because I would have been really upset if I didn't get to see it in theaters before it left.
You
And
actually saw it in
so
theaters right after you got sick. You got out of the hospital, and then you went and
that's
saw it.
right. So with that being said, I will give this movie out of 5.
Hmm.
This gets a 4.75 out of 5. It's as close, I think, a great Marvel movie can be. My one quarrel with the film is the prison sequence. I think that is more of a James Gunn, hey, let's bring everybody together and chill out for 30 minutes. And it's very noticeable. I think both Nathan Fillion and his wife do a great job, and along with Ratcatcher too, but they stick out like a sore thumb because you know why they're there.
See,
And I'm really nervous about that part going into his DCU. I do not want to see his wife everywhere. I do not want to see her in every movie. I don't. I love her. She's great in Peacemaker, but she does not need to be in every DCU movie. She does not need to be that. She does not need to be the Clark Gregg of the DCU. Like, I'm here to put you the Justice League Initiative. Like, I don't need to see that. No, 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 no. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Jacob,
so
your
Guardians
spoiler
Galaxy.
details.
So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was an interesting time for me. I was expecting one thing. I got something completely different, which was not a bad thing. A little backstory: I did rewatch Guardians Galaxy Volume 2. I will say that I much prefer the first one, but I think Volume 3 is the best one out of the trilogy, which is pretty amazing to say. I don't think a lot of Marvel trilogies can say the final one is the best one out of its collection. And so I was really happy about that. I liked almost all the characters. I think my standouts were Nebula and Mantis, I think were my standouts personally for me. I thought that Groot in the special looked horrible, and I absolutely adored him in the movie. And so I think that was a huge upgrade, which made me feel really good inside. And I walked out thinking, oh my God, that's amazing. And the High Revolutionary was a very dumb villain to me when I initially had seen it. He really pissed me off. I didn't really understand, why he was chosen to be the villain and things. Then I watched a lot of people talk about it. I watched a lot of spoilerly podcasts about it and things, and like really big deep dives into the movie, why certain things were done in certain ways, why people believe whatever. And I really got to see the bigger pictures of the High Revolutionary, and it really made me appreciate and enjoy, especially some of the more complex themes. I just really love the idea that the only reason why he continued doing what he did was because Rocket Raccoon, a raccoon, was smarter than him. And that, I think, made everything worth it in the end. It's definitely the most disturbing and adult Marvel movie I think they've released so far. Mostly on the disturbing side. I think Marvel, when they're doing it right with the humor and like the darkness, when it's mixed at the right number, and we all know those movies, which movies they are, I think Marvel is at its best, like at its truest form. I do think this got a little too dark personally for a Marvel movie in my liking. But he had one intention. James Gunn had one intention, and that is show the harm on animals and what animals go through, and like if we're looking at it in a fantastical world, what people could do to animals, but also we're looking at like a very smaller, like intimate type of like real life thing. I mean, PETA came out and said this is like one of the best ever showing why animal abuse is bad, type of thing. And I think for that regard, I don't think you could change anything. I think this is exactly the story that you had to tell. But I don't know if Marvel was definitely the place, in my personal opinion, to tell it as graphic as it was told. Um,
It's
in,
it's
in my
it's
in my
it's
opinion. But I did like Rocket Raccoon. Obviously, he didn't make me cry. I didn't cry. I know a lot of people who did, though. To be fair, I was just like one of the only few people who did not cry. But Nebula, I think, was my standout. I think when Nebula finds out that Rocket is alive, I think is probably my favorite moment of the movie. Outside of the greatest action sequence or the top 5 greatest
why
action
didn't I
sequences
mention that?
that you didn't, so I'm going to. Out of the top 5 greatest action sequences ever in the MCU, the hallway fight scene, because of course it's a hallway. Yeah, no, outside of that, which guaranteed this to be a favorite movie of mine, was that fight sequence.
Oh, good.
I also love the cold opening. I think there's just something about it. It opens so sad. And some people did not like the fact that it opened so sad. Some people
It
really were
threw me
annoyed
off.
with it. It threw me off too. Don't get me wrong. Because all the other ones are really poppy. Like if you watch any of the other openings for Guardians, it's really up there. But this is a different world. They're living in a different time, you know?
Mhm.
And I love the rendition of Creep that they use in it. It's so
So
good.
good.
Now, that would be something I would say that I did not like about the movie is the musical choices. They're in a weird era of time, to be fair. But I didn't really think all the musical choices were great. I didn't really like a lot of them behind like what's going on screen type of thing.
Mhm.
I also did not like Kraglin and the dog. I can't think of Cosmo.
Mhm.
Anything to do with them, I'm fast forwarding when I'm watching it at home. They hold very little to nothing to the story
I agree.
whatsoever, except for the end. And even
The
then,
payoff
they could
stuff.
have just jumped in at the end. They didn't need to keep jumping back. I understand that you're trying to make your brother work, but I like Sean Gunn when Sean Gunn's used well. I just don't think he's really used well here, in my personal opinion. Um,
He's used better in Guardians too.
yeah, no, I definitely do agree. I think this is the worst I've seen him used in the Guardians movies.
He's
And then
used better in the holiday
Cosmo,
special.
Cosmo is just, I don't really think she is used to her greatest either. When they announced that
No.
Cosmo is going to be a part of this, I thought Cosmo was going to go on the journey with them. Like, why else would you bring like Cosmo as an actual character into the movies? And I
It's
didn't think
Cosmo
the
the space
humor,
dog.
and I also didn't think the humor really worked for me personally either. In that regard, their relationship, I didn't like the humor of it either, which is why I didn't like it. But outside of that, like the plant scene where they go and they find the world and it's so different from their own with like his like and he blows it up, like that's amazing. I have to touch on Gamora since Zachary did say I didn't like her. It's not that I didn't like her. I just think I feel really bad for Zoe Saldana. I don't think they've ever done Gamora justice. I don't even think this does Gamora justice. I think my biggest takeaway after walking out of the film, because I think by the end of the movie, especially because they didn't kill off Chris Pratt, even though he would have survived, but like even though they didn't kill off Chris Pratt when they Star Wars when they were going to, and I think it would have made for a much better ending if he would have died, in my personal opinion, with the vibe and tone of the movie. But it's nor here nor there. They kind of did have the spark back, in my opinion, by the end of the movie, where it did seem like she was, I wouldn't say joining, but like that there
When,
would be something.
when she's leaving and they have
Yeah,
that just that little conversation. Oh.
I think. I think there was a possibility, and so the fact that she goes back to the Ravengers and we get that one last shot of her where she's happy, and you can tell
Mhm.
why she went back. I really just wish there was more things with her at the Ravengers in the beginning of the movie, instead of just focusing on nowhere. Because I understand why you want to keep Gamora a secret, be like, oh my god, here's Gamora, type of thing. But I definitely feel like there needed to be more for her story to really make sense, in my opinion, and why
Mhm.
some of the creative choices were made. I just feel bad because I just don't think Zoe ever got the right justice for this character. And one can hope that Natiri can have. Actually, I really like Natiri in Avatar: Way of Water, so I think it was much better than Avatar.
Natiri is the soul of Way of Water.
Yeah, I liked her much better than the first Avatar.
Her son's the
So
heart. She's the soul.
yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway is I just I felt bad, but that's one character out of like a whole slew of characters I think are phenomenal here.
How did you feel about them cheating death so much in the movie? Because that got annoying after a while.
You know, I've been running around the Fast and Furious universe, as you know. We're going to talk about that a little later. That's a common theme there. And it's a common theme here. I think Rocket not dying was deserved and well earned.
Mhm.
I think Peter Quill not dying was not deserved and or well earned.
I agree.
Um, Also, if you were going to make sure he didn't die, don't do it so realistically that he wouldn't survive.
Right.
I think that's
Just
also another takeaway is that the visual was in him running back to go get the thing that like was truly like it was a common theme throughout all three films. I think would have been a perfect end
way
to his character. So it's just, in my opinion, more annoying. I'm excited to see where they go forward with Peter, for
that
sure.
made that made me. I told this to Jacob when I came out of the theater. That made me so mad.
But
I don't
out of
know why
all,
it did, but it did.
I don't know. I'm walking out. I'm walking away from it, giving it a 4.5. It is by far, unlike Zachary said, my favorite movie has come out in between phase 4 and phase 5. Phase 5 and
Mm-hmm.
phase 6.
Phase
Whatever
4 and
phase
5.
we're in. Let's get
Phase
real
4.
here. It's not my favorite. I think like Black Panther 2, it's fades better than this. I enjoyed Shang-Chi better than this, I think, like as a movie going experience. But I very much it's not to say I didn't like this movie. I thought this movie was phenomenal and so much better than I thought it was going to be. I think that's a big takeaway. I did not like Guardians movies, and I walked away liking the first one and the third one. That's a feat in its own right. Guardians Volume 2, oof, rough movie to get through. But there's moments in it that were good. Moments. Just not the whole thing. All right.
And this is also the movie where you appreciated James Gunn's directing more, because you've talked
Yes.
about your.
Yes, I've never really enjoyed James Gunn's like true camera work. I think he is the best here than out of anything I've seen him in. And I've seen a lot of James Gunn's movies without knowing I've seen James Gunn movies. I also think his script is the best here. I think when he is placed with limitations, James Gunn works really well. In my personal opinion, when you take away those limitations, I think that's where I get into the stuff that I personally just don't enjoy from James Gunn.
That's my issue with Taika Waititi. Thor Ragnarok, limitations. Thor Love and Thunder, all out there.
But then again, I've seen Taika Waititi where he's been all out there in other regards. I just don't think it works in the Marvel universe.
No.
Also,